You're listening to Unmuted Love. Hi there, I'm C. Ushelman, and with 35 years as a marriage and family therapist and 25 years as a parent of 2 children I brought home from the foster care system, I want to welcome you here to Unmuted Love Podcast, the one place where nothing is off limits to say out loud about parenting children from difficult beginnings.
Stop for a minute, stop and breathe for a minute, long it over your head, try to listen instead, won't you? Think for a minute, who you wanna be for a minute, don't get over your head, you're like everyone else, aren't you?
Sometimes it's real sweet around here, and sometimes it ain't so pretty, because this is 100% Unmuted Love. So let's go.
You'll be just
Hey parents, I'm so glad you're here today. You know, one of the things that is pretty true for almost all parents of children from difficult beginnings is that eventually, due to the intensity and the duration and the frequency of trauma patterns in a family, parents end up getting what's called blocked care. And what that means is that as a parent, you have a hard time showing up with your heart open. And once you start showing up with a closed heart, then your child shows up with an angry heart. And so they already were wounded in their heart space, and that's why they were doing what they're doing. And the only way to repair is to listen to their wounded hearts. So they're angry, and our job is to care about that. And unfortunately, they're so angry so much of the time, and their behavior is so intense and so frequent and so long that we just can hardly tolerate it as people. It's a little bit like being in an abusive relationship, right? That you can't get out of because it's a parent-child relationship. I 100% get it. I know what that's like. I've been there. So we don't get to divorce our kids, but we can find a way to get unblocked. And I know that sounds impossible sometimes, but it's really not. I work with parents all the time in Love Matters Parenting Society, Therapeutic Parent Program, and that's a major part of what we do is we work to find ways to actually unblock you systematically. Yes, you can do it. So I'm hoping that this just gives you a little peek at what some of the things are that we do in LMPS, and it's good enough really to get a little recovery if you pay attention. So here we go. I'm so hoping that you get what you came here for today, because everybody needs self-care and everybody needs to get unblocked. I'm so really glad that you made it here, because being blocked from your loving feelings towards your children is brutal for parents. Really, it is. It was terribly painful for me. After all, I brought my children home from the foster care system to make their lives better, right? To make a loving home for them and for myself. I also hoped that life with me would be better. I did. I hoped it would be better than the one they had before me. And of course, it was better in a lot of ways. But on the emotional front, I don't know. In the beginning, I'm not so sure. It's 25 years now since I brought 2 of my children home from the foster care system, but I remember all too well how personally blocked I was in the first few years of parenting them. When I first brought them home, I'd never even heard of the words blocked care before. I remember one night in particular, and it stands out to me because I don't think I've ever sobbed that much in my whole life. I was sitting in my living room. It was long after midnight, and I was just crying it out. I'd just gotten the kids to sleep after hours and hours of them screaming and throwing things and breaking their furniture and calling me every name in the book. I mean, I was stunned to be called a fat bee. I'm not kidding you. I'll never forget it. I felt so alone. I also felt darn crazy. And I thought, there's absolutely no one in my life I can talk to who will understand this. No one. There must be something really wrong with me, and maybe something super wrong with my kids. But I didn't know what. And I didn't know how to find out. I was beside myself. The despair was overwhelming. Everything I did didn't work. I went to therapists, I read books, I went to parenting classes, probably a lot that you've been through. I went to peaceful parenting. That seemed nice. And I liked it, but it didn't work. I went to something called 123 Magic, not very magical. And I went to PCIT, where they have you wear a bug in your ear, a microphone in your ear, and they talk to you the whole time you're playing with your kids. I don't even know how that was supposed to help me in the long run. I went to TBRI training and nurtured heart. Some things worked really, but mostly they didn't work. And if they did work, not for very long. And frankly, I was turning into a screaming Mimi myself. These 2 and 3-year-old children were causing me to flip my lid every single day. I felt so much shame about it. You might be feeling a lot of shame too. Most of the people who come into the attached place feel a lot of shame and despair. Parents in my adopted parenting membership online, the Love Matters Parenting Society, start out feeling like failures to the core. There's so much yelling in their homes, right? Too much yelling, so much hopelessness and overwhelm. It's like the sky's falling and there's no one there to hold it up, right? There's no one there to help us hold it up either. It's just us. And we're there in the proverbial desert with our children who can't be soothed, right? No matter what we do, regularly they melt down and strike out. And if they can be comforted, it's not for very long. And then you're off and running again to the next parental power struggle. As my children grew older, it got worse and worse. The behaviors became bigger and bigger, and I was more and more shut down. I was checked out and shut down and brokenhearted. I really was. I was like a country music song. I couldn't feel my love feelings at all. I started to doubt whether I really ever had any love feelings at all. I doubted myself on every front. I mean, I had been a therapist for 15 years when I brought my kids home. 15 years. And I thought I knew a thing or two about parenting children. I taught traditional parenting in my office, but I had taught it to parents of, typical children. I thought I was pretty good at that, but actually, I really never met up with adoptive parents trying to heal their kids from the difficult beginnings that they came from. I never tried to help kids with trauma. I served typical parents with typical children who are having some typical problems adjusting. Issues with ADHD, maybe, some behavioral problems at school. That's about it. It turned out I was good at that, but I had no idea what was going on in my own living room. Not a thing. I'm not kidding. It was like the kids were hanging from the chandeliers. Not that I had any chandeliers, but you know what I mean. They were hanging from everything and anything. They were breaking all their toys and they were kicking holes in the walls. They were hitting me and spitting at me. I don't even know. I was just freaked out. I was seriously freaked out. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I needed help and I couldn't figure out where to get it. The angry fighting and biting and breaking was breaking my heart. It was breaking my heart. I like to share what happened with me with you so none of you feel alone in what you might be going through, because I know a lot of you are going through this very same thing. You are not alone in your distress. At some point, pretty early on, maybe 2 years in, I started to feel so overwhelmed. I'm the type of person that kind of type A. I work harder and longer, not particularly smarter and wiser. So I worked harder to find answers, but I was met with my own overwhelm to the point where I was having thoughts of driving myself and the kids over a bridge. I don't mean over the bridge, but I mean off the bridge. Yeah, seriously. When I told this person a little dirty secret to my partner, he had this kind of stunned and frozen look on his face. He put his hands on my shoulders and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Honey, you need to get some help." It was like I was waking up from some kind of nightmare. I'm like, "What? Oh, yeah. Yes, of course I do. I need help." As bleak as all that sounds, it was actually the beginning of my journey toward hope. I'm happy to tell you that I made it there. I'm pleased to tell you that I went far and wide to find answers and information. I talked to therapists and attachment trauma researchers. Whew, the things I tried at home began to work. They began to work with my own kids. I could hardly believe my eyes. So I started sharing it with other parents. Then I started sharing it with other adopted parents. And those who took a hold of the model saw change in their families. Over time, I created a model that I started implementing with parents at the attached place. Over the years, my success grew into a big center with lots of therapists and other kinds of workers. And eventually I brought my model to the adoptive parents internationally online. I named my model Love Plus Parenting because we all know love is not enough, right? Love's important and it's not enough. When I was blocked, I felt like I was drowning with my hair on fire. And eventually a parent said that same sentence back to me on one of her very worst days. I think this is truly a universal feeling for adoptive parents, that they ended up just feeling so overwhelmed that that was a phrase that people used everywhere. I ended up titling my book, my first book, Drowning with My Hair on Fire, Insanity Relief for Adoptive Parents. My editor wanted to call it something like Attachment and Trauma Practices for Home or something. I don't know. Nope. I'm going to call it Drowning with My Hair on Fire because that's how I feel. So If you find yourself blocked or inching closer and closer to feeling blocked in your caring, then getting help now, right now, rather than later is wiser. I tell parents this all the time. Your children are just getting older and their bodies are getting bigger. Blocked parenting will make whatever difficult behaviors you're living with now exponentially worse later. I can nearly guarantee that. There is, however, hope. So I want you to hear that there is hope. There's real concrete steps that you can take toward hope. You don't have to stay blocked if you happen to be, and you don't have to become blocked if you aren't yet. So how do you do that, right? I'm not going to give you a TikTok message or a Facebook meme or a cool Instagram quote on a really cool picture. I know many of you are going to YouTube and Insta and TikTok to find expertise. I know you are, but that's sort of like 30 seconds or a few minutes of brilliance, and then you're supposed to somehow go home and apply that. And it's just not the truth, right? That's a little bit of social media sleight of hand. That isn't real. You're not going to get better if you're watching TikToks on mental health or you're watching YouTubes from people who've adopted children. You're probably not going to get better doing that. Your life is not going to be transformed by doing that. Honestly, it's not deep enough, right? It's too fly by night, too scattershot. It's information here about this, a little information about that, and then this, and then that, but it's not a good solid plan. It doesn't have depth. And I'll tell you this, people do not change without some depth. You will not be able to change without real tools with purpose and intention. So I'm glad you're here right now because I want you to know that I did purposely walk myself through a process to heal and to heal my children. And it worked. And it works when you work it. So if you're interested in that kind of success, I want you to come with me on a journey of hope and real transformation. You don't have to be blocked in your caring. You don't have to feel lifeless inside. You don't have to be counting the minutes until your child turns 18. Well, first of all, they don't really leave home at 18 anymore, so that's a fantasy anyway. What we all really want to do is learn how to experience our children in a different way and to get some real understanding of how to shift our internal processes that will take us deeper into healing and into an understanding of who we are and what we bring to this equation. And then how do we get ourselves out? That's what I have to offer you. If you're blocked, you're not having a terribly rewarding life. And I know that. I was there. I've been there. And I'm not there anymore. And I want to help you not be there anymore, too. What I'm talking about here is the Love Plus Parenting model. That's a framework with action steps to take. It takes you deep into transforming your life, your thinking, your feelings, and your actions to move you from surviving to thriving. Now, I know these are words that people promise on the internets all the time. I'm sure you've been promised a diet where you can eat anything you want and drop 20 pounds in 10 days or something like that. And I'm sure you've been promised face cream that will make you look 20 years younger in 5 days. I can help you build a life raft that you can climb aboard to stop drowning. I can even help you put that fire out in your hair. What I mean is there's a way out, there's hope, and not just hope, but there are actual action steps to get you there. If you're willing to do the work, you can unblock yourself and create that dream of a happy family life you envisioned when you brought your children home. Everybody has that dream. Not everybody actualizes it. There is a plan waiting for you. I don't want to be another person who gives you something that you think doesn't work. I don't want to be that. I want to serve adoptive parents who are committed to change in a huge way because this model will take you there. If that's you, I'm looking for you. I want to serve you. I would love for you to do a little exercise. Are you game to do that? Okay, so get out a piece of paper and a pen. Write down all the things you've tried to help yourselves do better at home with your children. All the programs you've tried, all the books you've read, and then I want you to get honest with yourself. Get real. How long did you actually practice in that program? How long did you actually put those strategies to work at home? What were the real outcomes and what did you learn? And what worked and what did you learn that didn't work? Do that for everything you've tried. I know you think you've tried everything and nothing works. I know that because I thought that myself, really. I did. And I know everybody that comes into my office and most of the people coming to my membership, they tell me that very same thing. Nothing works, see? Be sure you're telling yourself the whole truth, though, when you say nothing works. When I was saying that, I was missing bits and pieces of truth, like the part where I started and stopped when nothing changed in the first week, or the part where I only kind of did some of the exercises, or that time I gave up because I was just too damn blocked. The Love Plus Parenting model comes with real life support from an expert, that's me now, and plenty of adoptive parents who get what life is like with children from difficult beginnings. They will get you. This model doesn't leave you on your own to figure it out. This model is being used by hundreds of adoptive parents who are still here getting support and being cheered on to stay the course, dig deep, and reap the benefits of transformation in their own family lives. You probably think you know what the answer is to how to get unblocked, and you might be thinking, well, it's self-care, because that's what's being told to you everywhere all the time. And I know you know that. And yet there are reasons why you don't get self-care, right? You don't have childcare. You don't have time. You don't have money. You don't have the strength to deal with the after effects when you get home from self-care. And what is self-care anyway? And how long do you have to do it before you get unblocked? And do you have to do it all the time to stay unblocked? And on, right? I've had all that swirling around in my head too at different times in the past. I know what it is today, and I want to help you know what it is too. But what I want you to know is that self-care is a really important part of becoming unblocked, that's for sure. But there are some other things that are actually as important. And the one thing I want you to know is that your regulation on a daily basis is as important as self-care. What I mean by regulation is that you're able to keep your emotional lid on, right? Your emotional lid on, and you can keep yourself at a not necessarily calm, cool, collected all the time place, no, but you can be in the wave and inside the window of tolerance, meaning you haven't lost your mind, and you are able to go with the flow, whatever might be happening in your environment. So how do you know what regulation is? Basically by knowing what dysregulation is. When you yell, you're dysregulated. When you're too exhausted to do anything and you're like, I'm going to bed, I don't care, that's dysregulation. Some people yell, some people collapse and go to bed. Some people go shopping all day, right? A little retail therapy that lasts all day. Whew, there's a lot of ways to be dysregulated. So when you're not dysregulated and you're able to be home, engaged, caring, that's where you're actually regulated. But what happens with blocked parenting is that you spend so much time being dysregulated until you have a whole system that's kind of super high in toxic stress, upregulated, or toxic stress super low, downregulated. So that's how come some people go to bed and some people scream. So here's the thing, I don't want to give you a quick fix for that because there isn't one. Now you can go to, say, TikTok or Facebook or Instagram and find some solutions that people give you, like they're the end all be all, like if you do this, you will be instantly better. But those are simple solutions that probably will work for a second, but won't work long term because you have to do more. You need more depth within. One of the things I want you to do here is the thing that I promised you at the beginning. I want you to think about what happens in your mind when you're dysregulated. So this is our little exercise. What happens in your mind? So when you get upset, what do you think? What does your mind tell you? Does your mind tell you, I hate this? Does your mind tell you, you don't know what's going on and it's just pointless and hopeless and you give up? What does your mind tell you? I want you to write that down. And then I want you to write down how you want to feel in your life on a daily basis. How do you want to feel? Maybe you say, I want to feel happy. Or maybe you say, I want to feel calm. Or maybe you say, I want to feel loving. I want to feel respectful. Okay, so write that down. That's your goal. Now, a big part of regulation is knowing who you are, and a big part of dysregulation is forgetting who you are. So I want you to think about it. Who are you? When I think about myself, I'm a person who I see as creative, resourceful, and whole. That's who I am. I'm creative, resourceful, and whole. That's who I am. I walk through the door every day, creative, resourceful, and whole. That's what I tell myself, and that's who I am. When my kids are screaming, I look at them and I'm like, I'm creative, resourceful, and whole. My kids are screaming and I'm creative, resourceful, and whole. I embody that. I embody that in my whole body. I say that to myself and I put my body in a state where that feels true to me. My kids are upset, but I'm creative, resourceful, and whole. They're different. My kids are different than me. They're not me. So I can be creative, resourceful, and whole and caring about them without being them, without becoming them. So what are you? Who are you? Right? Are you mindful, respectful, and loving maybe? Are you playful, engaged, and practical? Who are you? Who are you? Everybody's different. So I've told you who I am. I'm creative, resourceful, and whole. And I know exactly how to embody that in any given situation, anywhere, anytime, no matter what's happening around me. That is a deeper way of regulating, right? It's a way of knowing who you are in any given situation and practicing that routinely. Every day I get up in the morning and I am creative, resourceful, and whole. So I can still get excited sometimes. I can still get mad. I can lose my temper. Yeah. I can still have all my feelings, but I don't lose sight of who I am. And who I am is creative, resourceful, and whole in my whole body. So the exercise for you today is to figure out, who are you? Who will you be when your children are melting down? Who will you be routinely every single day, wherever you are, no matter the situation? Who will you be? When you can be true to yourself routinely, then you become little by little less blocked. It's a form of self-care, because the more dysregulation you have, the more unwell you are. The more regulation you have, the more wellness you have. I hope you found something here today to help lift your spirits and bring hope back into your life. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time in Unmuted Love. Hey parents, this is C. Get the help you need to end destructive and chaotic behavior in your home while parenting children from difficult beginnings. I know you need help, and the Love Plus parenting model actually works. I'm inviting you to work with me personally for 6 months in my virtual Therapeutic parent program, and I guarantee you results, or 100% of your investment back. How is that for a blue ribbon deal? I'm looking forward to working with you. See you on the inside.
Stop for a minute. Stop and breathe for a minute. Long it over your head. Try to listen instead, won't you? Think for a minute. Who you want to be for a minute. Don't get over your head. You're like everyone else, aren't you? You could gain from being a bit nicer. Knowing to talk and when to shut your mouth.
The Unmuted Love podcast is hosted by me, C. Eshelman, attachment and trauma specialist at the Attach Place in Sacramento, California. Our podcast producer is the amazing Saya Clark, and our theme song is Nicer by Houses on the Hill, licensed through Epidemic Sound. Thank you for being such loyal listeners here on Unmuted Love. I'll see you all next week.
You'll be just fine.